Hi, it's Tracy. Welcome to my home here in Sussex, England. Now, before the summer season gets fully underway, I thought it would be the perfect time to take a look back at some of my favourite decorating moments from summers past. There's something incredibly helpful about pausing to reflect, seeing what's moved, what's changed colour, what still feels right. It always sparks ideas for me for the new season ahead. And if nothing else, it's a chance to relax, gather inspiration, and enjoy a little calm creativity. With plenty of appearances from Bertie, of course. And here is the boy himself in his favourite kitchen armchair. And it's in the kitchen that we're going to start. I'm looking for inspiration for my 2025 decorating in here. Of course, I spend most of my time in the kitchen, as I'm sure you do, but in the summer months, I also like to spend a lot of time in my outdoor spaces and over in the guest cottage. So those are the areas that we're going to be focusing on today. Now, I think it's time that we take a little trip back in time to the summer of 2023. And I had a hankering to do something with the chandeliers that we've got in the kitchen. I do love to keep moving things around. And I had this idea of taking a garland and wrapping it around the chandelier. Super pleased with how that turned out. And I think that's something that I'm going to incorporate going forward. Now, over to the big white dresser, Big Mo, as we call her, Mahogany Mo. And the decorating on there evolved from taking some old pots and then doing my faux stone effect on them. I've got lots and lots of tutorials on how I do this, so I will link one below, just by chance if you have not come across the technique before. These were actually old Christmas ornaments and they were very shiny silver, so this technique works on any substrate. You can transform anything with it. I've got 5 of these crystal decanters that I picked up at auction in a job lot. And I actually used them last Christmas all the way down the centre of the table. And I popped candles in them. So you can use them in lots of different ways. You could use them as vases as well. Pop flowers in, take the stoppers off, just have the stoppers as ornaments around. Lovely effect. Take note on the sherry glasses. You'll be seeing those used again in a different way later in this episode. Simple clippings from the garden make a big, bold pop of green. Kitchen table decorating now, and this table and chairs have had a complete makeover since this time. I will link that video below in case you're interested in giving a refresh to your tables. The sisal placemats I use again and again, and I'll use them all year round. I just find they just add that extra little layer. They anchor a display down, along with the Hessian as well. You will always see me using Hessian. Pillar candles, I've not used those for some time, so maybe that's something I could incorporate this summer. I love free decorating, and particularly in the summer, I've got a wealth of hydrangeas that are all grown from cuttings. So free decorating, gotta love free decorating. I will show you how I take my cuttings later in this episode as well. Over to the big pine dresser, which is always an absolute delight to style. I do like to experiment and I do challenge myself somewhat. I do go big and no, that's not working at all. So nice try. But if you don't experiment, then you don't push the boundaries. You don't find new ways. Now, this pot worked really well. In fact, it's still in that position because it just suits it. Although pampas grass, I think this was the last time I decorated with pampas grass. I've still got it all, but it's not out on display. Are you doing that? Are you still using pampas grass or has it kind of had its moment? I'm loath to get rid of it though. So ideas on what I can do with pampas grass, please. The grey twiggy heart has basically gone brown now. I sprayed it in a cafe espresso colour. And the candelabras, I'm thinking they need to be making a reappearance. They're actually in my storage shed at the moment, but maybe I'm going to change the colour. They're going to go in for a revamp. And the lovely big earthenware jugs, I've just reused those because in the last episode, you'll have seen me redo the porch for late spring, early summer. Meet Annabelle. She's such a big flouncy gal. And I get these heads so big because I cut the plant right down in February, virtually to the ground. I also that year was growing gypsophila. So note to myself, I've got to go and pick up some seeds. This just grows like crazy and you can just scoop up big bundles of it. It makes a lovely big statement. So definitely need to get some seeds in the ground now. Now, aren't they just fabulous? They're stunning. They're such fun to style with as well. Now, these I wouldn't dry at this stage because they've got far too much moisture in them. I've got a whole video on hydrangeas, start to finish hydrangeas, and particularly on how I grow them in order to use them for decorating, the right times to dry them, the different techniques and so on. So again, I link all this stuff below. So if you are interested in doing something with hydrangeas, or maybe you already do and just want to see if there's a few more tips and tricks in there, check it out in the description box. Over to the big wooden island. This is an old engineer's workbench and I found it at Ardingly Antiques. It was in a field. I looked across and that was it. I was in love. I didn't care how much it was. I was having it. Actually, I did get it for a really good price. So that was a bonus. Over to this corner of the countertop, and I always decorate in this area, regularly switching things up. Trays are something that I use a lot of. Sometimes I like them dark, sometimes I like them light. The mirrors as well. Oh, well, you can never have enough mirrors. I daren't count up how many mirrors I've got now. I used to say I had over 100. Well, I've got a lot more than that. Do you have a mirror obsession? Oh, I just love mirrors. Now, in this big pot here, because it's got a leaky bottom, it's a vessel in a vessel. And again, look at this gypsum filler, just a big clump clipped from the cut flower bed. I am definitely rushing out to get my seeds in. I love taking clippings from the garden at any time in the year. But I think in the summer months, you can just create these really lovely displays. Just a few little snips here and there. And particularly if you've got evergreens, adding those. I like to mix in faux flowers as well. And of course, you don't have to go out and buy lots of vases. You can use old jam jars. Ah, the joys of the English weather. That never changes. Well, at least the garden gets a good watering. I'm a serial mover of things. I'll quite often come down in a morning when a house is nice and quiet and I just move everything around. I love it. Now, after the rain, we get the beautiful evening sunshine. And here is or was my 2023 summer kitchen. Time for some time travel, and we have shot forward to summer 2024 onto the veranda, my happy place. Now, every year, because I live in a white house, there is maintenance. It's lovely, but it really does take maintenance. And so I clear off the veranda, I paint the floor with a masonry paint, and then I just touch up the woodwork with these Super Deck products. I'll link them below. The kitchen table, I'd done a makeover on in 2023 using white Osmo oil stain, and then I sealed it all with a top oil, and it went fine. This year, I have changed it, so check out last episode if you want to see that. This is my storage shed. I had been using some high back chairs on that table, and I fancied a bit of a change. So I had two that were good to go, and I pulled out 4 lower ones and decided to give those a bit of a makeover. When I was reupholstering the seat pads, I came across an old fabric from years and years ago that I'd had the pads covered in. Oh, and I just wish that I'd kept more of it. I know I had a big fabric dump when we did the big build here because it was in storage and it didn't wear well. And I absolutely loved the orange colour that was coming through. So I decided not to cover those 2 chairs and I just did the reupholstery on the other 4. And they have really dictated the colours, if you like, that I've pulled in, the accent colours onto that veranda. Now, I cover everything in Scotchgard, and it really does help to keep the fabric in good condition. It's not 100%, but it helps keep the worst of the elements off it. And the table, we always call it the kitchen table because it was the kitchen table. Now, this is the summer of capability green. We went green, and I mean really bright green. The coffee table got a wash of green. Super simple to do, uses very little paint. And then to keep the elements out, and because it's going to be outside, I sealed it all with the Annie Sloan matte lacquer. And I didn't stop there. The old bookcase, that got a makeover as well, with 2 full coats of the green. I was popping green everywhere. And why not? Because using paint is such a cost-effective way of breathing new life into a piece. Something maybe that you've used elsewhere, like these candlesticks here. I gave those a new lease of life again with the green, and a few other objects, finishing them off in different ways. And it creates that whole cohesive look. So really, your biggest decision is just deciding on your colour. The coffee table got repainted again in the autumn to coordinate with the new design. So it's a constant moving feast with me. Everything is on a cycle. These potato chitting trays I have used again and again. So you don't actually have to have pieces of furniture. Old boxes would do the same thing here. Up in the corner here, I wanted to put a big faux palm, so I used a £20 basket that I found in a charity shop, and to elevate the pot up, I just popped in a couple of random containers. This basket now is my log basket in the snug. The small log basket here, I sprayed white. I used it in 2024 in that position, and I've used it again in 2025, but I've set it on something different, so it gives a completely different look and feel to that area. I've also switched that sofa out. Have you seen the 2025 episode yet? If not, watch it after this one. I think it's my best veranda styling ever. But then I say that after every time I've styled it. So you can make up your own minds. My decorating always takes the same format. I like to get all my big key pieces in position first, and then the next layer that I go on with is fabric, because fabric can make such a statement. After that, once I can step back and see with all that fabric on, all my big pieces, I can work out how it needs to be accessorized. Now here, I knew I needed some more cushions, and my local charity shop was having a £1 for everything day. So I bagged these 3 curtain panels in the green for just £1, and they worked really well with the recycled cushions that I'd put out there. Now, sewing is quite a new thing for me. I have been on a little bit of a journey, but I managed to knock these up and save myself a fortune. This was a TK Maxx HomeSense find, and I've used it several years out on the veranda. In fact, I've used it again in 2025, but because everything's accessorized differently, they take on a different look and feel. So don't be shy about reusing things, even reusing things in the same spot. If they're styled slightly differently and you're bringing other elements around, it will feel like new. My husband often says, "Oh, is that new?" And I say, "No, I've had that for years," even if I have actually only just bought it. He never knows the difference. I've reused this pot this year out here, and this one I've dropped some dark wax on in order to just make it fit better with the scheme. 2024 was the year of my cane addiction. Oh my lordy, my cane addiction is still going, but I'm trying not to buy any more. I've used them all the way through the year, and I use them in my Christmas decorating as well. The mirror was an eBay find. Again, chalk paint, distressed, and it's screwed into the wall, so it's completely safe. Also, it's set at an angle that you wouldn't get any real reflection that could cause fires. Now, this is a pasta jar. My daughter had 3 of them, and you know what it's like when they leave university and you are left to sort out everything because they just dump it. And I wrapped coir all the way around, coir bean string, and to it I added some strands of faux greenery. I know it's counterintuitive. I use real inside and then I use faux outside, but do you know, just make up your own rules. Don't listen to anybody. Do just what feels right. And as I always say, if it makes you smile, then it's right for you. Mother-in-law's windows. Oh, these do get around. So she decided at 90 something to have her windows changed. And fortunately, my husband nabbed 2 of these. They were in immaculate condition, whereas I really wanted the chippy look. So I did distress them down and it revealed this lovely orange. Well, of course, linking back to the orange that was in the chair in the fabric, they worked brilliantly out here, but as I say, they do move around a lot and they are currently residing in the hallway. The smallest details can really help pull a scheme together. So these are old wooden school rulers, and on the top of one of them is some lovely orange writing. Again, a nod to the little accent of orange that we used here. I do like to make tall furniture look taller. I like to pull things up, and I often use things on top of this bookcase. Here, I was following on with the basket theme that we had, and I'd sprayed these white some years before, so the colour was really working with this design. I then carried on down the bookcase using very simple pops of green, white, and the natural colour, just to pull everything together. The kitchen table that is now the table that lives on the veranda table, I tend to always keep the design quite simple on here, purely for the fact that we use it. We use it nearly every day, and particularly when we've got lovely weather. Even when we haven't got such amazing weather, the veranda is very sheltered. I know for many of you living in hotter climes, you tend to build these structures to keep the shade, to keep the heat off you. This is built to capture the heat because we need the warmth. And we also need shelter from the rain because it does rain a lot in England. The decorating that I do outside doesn't really use anything expensive. These are all either old items that I don't really want to use in the house anymore, or items that I've picked up for a song in charity shops or at auction. This copper bin with lid was found at auction, and it was really shiny when I first got it. It's been outside for several years, so it's weathered down. Now, this was summer 2024, and in my fall episodes, in my autumn episodes, you'll have seen me take lemon and salt and clean all of that, and it came up super, super shiny. The 2-acre field that we have is amazing for foraging all year round, but it definitely comes into its own in the summer months. I often decorate with weeds. Wild garlic grows in abundance here, so I'm always picking that. We get lots and lots of cow parsley. The field throws up all sorts of wildflowers. So, nice bunch of weeds. I think that's absolutely great. You can team it with the evergreens. This is one of my favourite trees to pick, particularly in the summer, because it has those lovely yellow tips on it. So it's really interesting and it smells of lemons. The reason why I particularly mentioned the evergreens is that I find they last so long in water. I will get weeks, if not months, off them. So they're really worth the sacrifice of taking the clippings. So that was my 2024 veranda. And here is a little quick peek of my 2025. Now, I have just done this. It was in the last episode. So please do look at that if you haven't already. It is packed full of ideas and inspiration. There's thrift shopping as well as a colour change, as well as a furniture change. All sorts going on. I just absolutely love it. Every time I walk out there, it puts a huge smile on my face. So I know it's right for me. We're going to move on to some other areas of my home now, looking for more inspiration. So we're going to flip back to not only 2024, but 2023 as well. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you are enjoying this episode, please do hit that thumbs up because it really helps the channel. And check to see if you're subscribed. If you're not, please do. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything. Now, welcome to the kitchen courtyard. We call it the kitchen courtyard because it's where 3 kitchens converge. We've got the house kitchen, the outdoor kitchen, and the kitchen for the cottage. So, seemed like a sensible name. As the eBay Find grill is red, I tend to accent in this area with red. So just various bits and bobs that I've got. And then I bring in red flowers in biscuit tins. Now let's head back in time. We're going inside the cottage and this is 2023. If you're interested in how the guest cottage came about, the whole build from start to finish, it's all detailed in its own episode. 2023 was my blue phase in here. It was the first time that in a long time that I decorated with pops of blue. It's not something I tend to lean towards these days, but I really enjoyed trying to pull everything together in here with all those blue tones. Deciding on one dominant colour and then maybe a couple of accent tones is a good way to approach a new way of decorating, particularly if it's something that you don't do very often. It's a good way to build up your confidence, and you will find that if you keep those similar tones throughout, it's very difficult to go wrong. So have a go, just have a play around, and you might find that it is the most therapeutic and relaxing thing you have done in a long time. I certainly can de-stress doing this. The countertops, the flooring, the upstands, they're all made from vintage French cheese boards. So these are boards that would be taken down into the caves and used to dry cheese on. And I picked them up. Actually, I found them originally on eBay and then it tracked through to a local dealer, antiques dealer, and I picked them up from him. We were so careful on the cutting of them that I was only ever left with a few pieces, which I now use as chopping boards. A jug of wild oxeye daisies from the field just give a beautiful summery lift to that corner. Auction find brass scales I got for 30 something pounds from auction. Forgive me, I don't remember. But I know they weren't more than 40. And they lived in here for quite a while. And now they've moved into the kitchen and they are taking pride of place on my sink island. Supermarket herbs in terracotta pots always give a lovely spring summery vibe. So much cheaper than going to a garden centre as well. Layering vintage mirrors works for any season. They throw so much light around, they add visual interest. These comfy jars have now found their way out of the cottage and into the snug. Bowls. Get your big bowls out, folks. I love a big bowl. I can't resist them when I find them in charity shops. They're so great to decorate with. And of course, you can plant them up as well at this time of year. They would make beautiful planters on a kitchen countertop. If you're wanting to go light and bright and airy for summer and you're in the charity shops or you've got old vessels, cracked vessels, try doing my faux stone technique, but don't put too many herbs and spices in, and you'll just transform a piece. And you can use it particularly for creating that lovely light, airy display. Maybe putting glass with it as well, as I did on Big Mo over in the kitchen. over to the sitting area of the cottage. Now, in this area, I've kept it very light and bright and used the same tones that I have throughout the whole of the property. This rug was just a TK Maxx find, and my husband's gone and bagged it for his office. He really likes it. I really like it in here, so there's the war of the rug going on at the moment. This sofa, I think personally, the back is too high. So I am still on the lookout for a much lower backed, lighter sofa. Yes, I could go out and buy one brand new, but quite frankly, where's the fun in that? I like the thrill of the chase. This HomeSense tray has now found its way this year onto the house veranda on the coffee table. Everything keeps moving around. The coffee table is an old school desk that I cut the legs down on and did a paint job on. And the lids are great for hiding magazines and books and so on inside. So, really good storage. Most of the blue and white pottery you're seeing me style with is spode. If you've got lots of small little items, I find a nice way to actually display them is to group them in tight groups. So you're almost creating a big statement, but just with very small items. I've got 4 of these garlands that my son brought back from America from Hobby Lobby. Now, when I first got them, I didn't really know anything about Hobby Lobby. I just thought it was a place that sold really good faux flowers and greenery. Then some of my American friends started to bring me up to speed. So I'm asking particularly my American friends here, what are your opinions on Hobby Lobby? Now, remember, this is not a political channel, and I am English. We can't buy from Hobby Lobby out here. So I'm just interested to know from my American friends, do you still purchase your home decor from Hobby Lobby? Through to the cottage bedroom and my amazing bed. Now, I found this bed at my favourite charity shop, £75. I posted about it back in the days when I was on Instagram. Somebody messaged me to say, I bought that bed originally and it was over £2,000. Happy days. This is why I love thrift shopping so much. It doesn't matter how much money I amass in my lifetime, I will always thrift shop. It's just such an adventure. When sanding back this chair, I discovered the underpaint was blue, so ideal to add it to the blue theme. And through to the bathroom to add just a few final little touches in there that will bring the whole scheme together. We're going to move on to the cottage veranda now, and we're going to look at 2023 and 24 decorating because I really need to do something with this space in 2025 and I need lots of inspiration. So let's have a look at the past and see what we can draw on to bring forward into the present. Now, the big sofa here, this was a charity shop find for just £40. The dresser was an auction find for £50. It was painted in purple and yellow, and it took me 4 days to strip. I finished it in the same product that I finished the cottage off in, but because the wood was very different, it took the product in different ways, which actually I really loved. So it's escaped makeovers because I think it's absolutely ideal as it is. The sofa has lived on the cottage veranda since it first came home, but recently it's found its way onto the house veranda. More vintage mirrors are going to find their way onto this wall. They actually work really well in this spot, so I don't think I'm going to be switching these out anytime soon. But maybe I could add to them. 2023 was when I did something cute to this wall. I had this old antique bed head. It's for a single bed. And I'd given it a paint effect when we were doing the build, and then we just never used it. So it sat in storage. I decided I'd distress it down, reveal more of that oak. And then above it, I wanted to add a mirror. As luck would have it, I found a super cheap, super large mirror. Perfect size. I mean, the marriage was made in heaven. I covered that in old white and gave it a good sand, distressed it back, and then put the two together. between the two cane armchairs, I wanted to do a coffee table and I didn't have one spare, so I used my potato chitting trays to create one. I used the backs off some other cane furniture in order to create the seat pads for these two. Fortunately, this sofa came with pads that actually were really quite nice. They have faded down a bit over the years, but super comfy and kind of work with my schemes. This rocking chair now has found its way onto the house veranda. And here's the copper tub you saw earlier on the house veranda. And this old enamel bread bin was found at auction in a job lot. And I took the lid off and I used it as a light shade in the cottage bedroom. Waste not, want not. Now, this tub was here when we first moved in, and my husband used to use it for putting the ash in out of the fire. And I thought, well, that's a waste. I'm going to have it as a container. This is mother-in-law's ruler. It's a very, very tall one. Now, at this stage, you would be thinking I should be bringing out my cushions and throws because that's the way I normally do it. I have no idea why I haven't. I've gone straight into decorating that great big corner dresser. I was obviously getting a little bit overexcited. So I think we can safely assume my brain was leaning towards green. It really is fascinating looking back over old styling. And you can just see how styling has evolved, how I've moved in different directions, different color palettes. A lot of the objects are still the same, but I'm using them in very different ways in 2025. But thank goodness for that, because how boring would it be otherwise? The bed head here has a very narrow top, so you have to choose things intentionally. So here I was looking for candlesticks that had the smallest basis. Somebody did say, well, you could add a board to it to make it bigger, but actually I quite like the challenge. I also feel that it's more helpful to viewers as well who may have areas of their home where there is something really thin and they don't have an opportunity to extend it. So it just gives ideas on how they can style these awkward spaces. Yes, that is a bath and not a giant ice bucket, as somebody once asked me. We will talk about the bath a little bit later on. Now, these vessels on here are going to be filled with wildflowers. But in the meantime, let's bring out some fabrics. Oh, shame on me for not doing this at the beginning. I recycle a lot of my fabrics. So they go through a process through the house. And then when I don't want them in the house anymore, I'll try and make them work out on the verandas where they will live until they die of old age. Outdoor sockets are lovely to have, but really ugly to see. So I just cover them up. I use pine cones to really pinch in the pot of the faux palm and stop that blowing around. Pine cones I use all year round. I think they're a real decorating staple. And after I'd filled the containers with water, I went out for a good old forage. Leylandii is a great decorating staple for me. It works all year round. It's such a hard-working evergreen. It gets a bad rap in this country, Leylandii, but I think it's just because people plant it in the wrong position. Here, we can just let it grow wild and use it for decorating. Fast forward to 2024, same veranda, but very different look and feel was created. There was lots of makeovers. And remember, this was the summer of capability green. Remember the work that we'd done out on the house veranda, the things that we'd flipped, that bright color that we'd brought in, really transformed the space. Now I was about to transform the cottage veranda. First up was another colour wash, uses very little paint, and I transformed the pink rocking chair. I'd set myself the challenge of just 2 tins of paint and how many items could I transform. Next came the swing seat, and I gave that 2 generous full coats of the capability green. Everything I did, I then sealed in the Annie Sloan matte lacquer. Whenever I'm doing pieces of furniture like this, I like to do a few accessories as well. I do that because I can then pull that colour across a space with the accessories. This tray was an ideal case in point, had these beautiful rust marks soaking through. As I'd had my tray out and I had lots of paint in my roller, I just used what was loaded in that roller to whiz over the tray. So it can be a really cost-effective way of using up already loaded brushes and rollers. I did the same thing with this lantern. It's made of terracotta. It's had several makeovers over the year, but the thingamajig, what's it in the middle that you put the accelerant in, the lid of that was completely sealed up, so I couldn't use it as a lantern anymore. But the shape of it would make an ideal pop of green. I was looking for another tray and I found this one that I'd had outside for a few years. I mean, it's got so much algae on it, it's almost green anyway. The bathtub, my antique bathtub. This is a French bateau. I found it on eBay. The chap who sold it to me had restored it. Unfortunately, he'd brushed everything rather than spraying, so it has got a few brush marks in it. Fortunately, though, it's been really well enameled inside. Now, at this stage, I was over the colour and decided that capability green was definitely going to be the way to go. So it got a thorough makeover, everything sealed with the matte lacquer. If you look to the right of the screen, you'll see how I did the makeover on the mirrors. This rug was a great find. It was just £10 and it's a huge sisal rug. So I think I am maybe going to use this one again this year because it has worn quite well, and maybe just layer up with another rug on top. The old school desk came out in 24 as a coffee table. But I've got another idea for on there for this season. This is what these chairs used to look like. They were an eBay find, just £23, and it included the glass table. Absolute bargain. I mean, when you think of how expensive garden furniture is, when you can be recycling using old cane conservatory furniture, and if you get 4 or 5 years out of them, you might even get more depending on how you protect them. Definitely worth it. Now, down to my storage shed. This, by the way, has changed colour. It also is fabulously organised now. This was when it was getting to a real chaotic mess. It was a proper little rummage room. This is what I was after, though. It's an £8 Moses basket that I'd picked up in a charity shop, and I had an idea to turn it into a planter. I'd picked up some large geraniums from Home Bargains for just £2.99. So once I got all the gubbins off, always save your gubbins, I gave it just a quick blow over with some old spray paint that I didn't particularly like anymore. So for a project like this, it's great to use your old stuff up. That just really brightened it. I didn't want to put any black plastic liner in there because it would show through in the gaps. But what I did find in the recycling was a builder's sack. We'd worn the bottom out of it. So I ripped that apart and used it as a liner. And to raise it slightly off the deck, I used some old stair spindles. I was super pleased with how the rocking chair turned out. I mean, it used hardly any paint at all. And giving a little rub back, it revealed a little flash of pink there. I popped the swing seat back on. Lots of you said, oh, you should hang it the other way because you've got the bolts sticking out on the inside. But that's how the instructions were. Although I think this year I might try and switch it the other way around because it was a valid point. It could have caught somebody's legs. But we've had no bloodbaths yet. This year, I didn't go with the backs of the sofa. I've really gone down this route of not using the cushions, the backs on sofas. And it's worked so well. Now, I was looking for fabric, and as luck would have it, I found some great fabric in a charity shop. I thought, oh, hello, you look like summer to me, and just £15 for 5 meters. And then when I got to the till, I found out it was another £1 for everything day. So happy, happy days. I found the cotton thread at my local haberdashery, and that actually cost me a lot more than the fabric. Got that home and went about making cushion covers. Only this time, because I had so much fabric, I thought I'm going to make life super easy for myself. And I made long panels and then just folded them over envelope style, stitched down the sides. And I was like a little machine that day. I was churning these babies out. Unfortunately, this material did not wear well in the sun. It really faded. So, unfortunately, they will not be making an appearance again. But it was a lovely summer with them. I really, really loved them. I didn't add anything to the rocking chair because I thought it was just lovely as it was. However, I did bring out the green basket that you will have seen me use in lots of different places and added a few throws in there. The ones, in fact, that I used the year before, they all got bleached in the sun, but the colorway, it was a good fading. Sometimes things fade in a really lovely way, and sometimes they just look horrible. Fortunately for those throws, they faded in a really lovely way. Then it was time to dress the dresser. And of course, another trip down to what was the chaotic storage shed. I love to bring out, as you've probably worked out by now, lots of old china. You know, if it's chipped, if it's slightly damaged, it doesn't really matter if you're using it outside. Baskets are always a weakness of mine. And particularly in the summer months, I think, the two together and then bring out, as well as all the fresh, the clippings, you can use the faux as well. I picked up this fabulous set for just £5 in a charity shop. It was a jug, a bowl, and a potty. I mean, let's just make no bones about it. It was a potty. But I'm not exactly going to eat my lunch out of it, loves, am I? So it was fine. I know some people were disgusted. It's actually a decorative one. That would never have been a pot under one's bed. And that algae covered tray painted up really well. I'm noting just how different my styling technique is on this dresser from 23 to 24. Much bigger, bolder items, a lot less fuss and detail, lots of statement pieces. Onto the table now. Remember back to when we started this episode in the kitchen and we had the white hydrangea in the basket on the table? Well, here is the gal again, another year on. The green tray came on, and again, throw your minds back to the kitchen decorating. It's the sherry glasses, and this time round, I used them as bud vases. The cottage is featured in that magazine. The sweet peas were doing particularly well at this stage, and the scent was just heavenly. Time to cover up that outdoor socket again. Only this time we're not going to use the crate, we're going to use a basket. More purposeful styling needed again on this narrow shelf, so I came up with a new design. And if your candles are too big for the candle holder, just put some heat around the bottom and it will melt, and then you can mold it into position and it'll hold nice and strong. If it's the other way around and the candle is too small and waggles around in the candle holder, use some museum wax. I attached 3 different heights of offcuts of wood to a scaffold board and then attached it to the deck. And it makes a great, not just decorative platform, but it's actually really useful when you're in the bathtub. It made a great home for this lovely pot, even though it is quite chipped and cracked. Therefore, I don't mind using it outside. Okay, confession time. The jug is no more. I used it in my porch this springtime, and there was a freak gust of wind. It blew over and it smashed. Oops. But back in 2024, it was a watertight vessel and it needed to be filled with something beautiful from the gardens. Living here is truly my happy place. It really makes going on holiday very difficult because I never want to leave it. Now, Bertie, the furry supervisor, had been quite absent in this episode. Oh boy, did he make up for it at the end. I had this vision of doing closing shots of me sat on the sofa with my faithful companion snoozing by my side as I flick through the magazine. No, didn't happen like that.
Come on then, Bertie. Woo! Go on, I'm gonna read my magazine. You do want big hugs, okay, okay. Lay down. Sit. Sit. Yeah. Ha. Shh. Hi.
So let's leave the 2024 veranda there. It's given me lots of ideas for this year, and it is something that I really do want to get on with. So I'm going to do a complete revamp, I think, of the inside and the outside, and that should be coming very soon. But I guess the biggest question I've got is, should I leave the capability green? So should I leave the bathtub, the chair and the swing seat in that colour? Or should I change it to olive is the colour I've gone with in 2025 on the house veranda, the episode that was last time. Give me your thoughts in the comments below. I'd be really interested to know. If this was your veranda, what colour would you be bringing on? Now, the cut flower bed here wasn't looking so great because I just put some more seeds in for gypsum filler. I'd already used swathes of it in other rooms around the house. So, yeah, I really need to crack on with that right now. I've got the sweet peas in, but they're tiny and I need the warmth to come. It's so cold at the moment. Lovely bright days, but we've had some nice warm spells and then it's dropped cold again. Now let's work our way back up to where I keep all my baby hydrangeas. And I did promise you I would show you how I do my hydrangea cuttings and get loads of free plants for decorating. I like to group all my pots together for two reasons. One, it makes a really impactful display, and two, it makes the watering so much easier. Now, around July time, I take my cuttings. I've got various types of hydrangeas across the property, and I do try and propagate from all of them. Now, we are not a gardening channel here, so there's no fancy technical terms. It really is just how I do it. Here we are a little later in the season, and you can see the wonderful display that they're putting on. These are all just 1, 2, and 3 years old. Now, I have done a standalone video on hydrangeas, everything from start to finish. So I link that below. But now I'll just give you a quick summary of how I take the cuttings. The first important thing to do is make sure that your plant is fully hydrated. You are then looking for a stem that has not got a bud forming. I normally count about 2-3 sets of leaves down and then cut from there. I'm going to be putting these into just general compost that's been well watered. But before I do, I want to make sure that I am cutting away the leaves just at the leaf node there. And the idea behind doing this is to make sure all the energy goes into root production. As I work my way up and I've got these big leaves, it looks a bit brutal, doesn't it? I'm going to take a pair of scissors and just reduce the size of those leaves, again, encouraging root production. Another thing I quite often do, if I've got it around, is I use a rooting powder and just dip it in and give it a whirl. It's not necessary, but I just tend to do it. Just like with all things gardening, everybody seems to have their own opinion and their secret method is the best. One that I was told to do was put the cutting very close to the edge of the pot, and that's supposed to encourage more root growth. So I have experimented and put it near the pot and in the middle, and I found no difference whatsoever. One thing that definitely does work is have a big bucket of water next to you, put all your clippings in there, and it keeps them hydrated whilst you're potting them up. Now, once they're in the pots, you're supposed to get root systems within about 2 to 3 weeks. I tend to leave mine in the kitchen courtyard for a good 6 weeks. It's quite a sheltered area. They're not in direct sunlight, but it is still a very light area. So spin forward 6 weeks and, well, they're all still alive. I think the main thing at this stage is not to have them in direct sunlight. They are just not strong enough for that. So at this stage, We check the root systems and hello, nice big sexy clump. And it's time to pop them on into their individual pots. Now, I don't use anything particularly special to pop them on, just a good quality multi-purpose compost. Once I've done that, I take them back to the courtyard and that's where they'll spend the winter. Now, some people do like to cover them in plastic, protect them from the cold. We don't get terribly cold in this area, so they will live all winter long just on the ground there quite happily. And here we are the following summer. So they went through the winter. I only lost one in the winter. But my goodness, the Annabelle, look at the size of this. This is just 1 year's growth. I'm so pleased that I finally managed to get some Annabelles going. It's actually the first year that when I filmed this that I tried the Annabelles. This one, I just needed to show you this one. At the time of filming, this was a 2-year-old plant. Look at the size of that. Can you imagine how much I would have to pay in a garden centre for a plant like that? So if you've not taken hydrangea cuttings yet, then please do try. July is the best time, so give it a go. I mean, what have you got to lose? You know, it's just a few little snips off a plant. There are lots of different ways of doing it as well. So maybe have a Google and look at how other people are doing it. For me, it works this way, and I will be doing it in July and I will be keeping you updated as to how everything is going. Now, the gardens are looking lovely at this time of year. I can't wait for them to look like this again. I just need this warmth to come back. So let's just go and have a quiet little wander around. When you have a Labrador with his own stream, you have a very, very happy dog. Bertie is definitely living his best life. Now we're just going to have a wander over to the deck area that we have. Bertie's pointing the way there. This is how it looked back in lockdown when my son and I built it together. And this is how it looks now. It was on my list to do last year in 2024 and I just ran out of time. So it's definitely on the list for 2025, along with lots of other creative projects. And if I've got projects on the go, then you're going to get to see them all, which will hopefully give you lots of inspiration and ideas for your own home. I thank you sincerely for your company today. Take care, and I hope you visit again soon.